Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by two very special guests. The first one just finished her senior year at Edina High School and is committed to play at Boston University next season. Please welcome to the podcast, Kylie Roberts.
Hi.
And the next guest we have he is currently with the Dubuque Fighting Saints in the USHL and is committed to play with the Minnesota Gophers in the season of the 2022-2023 season. He is also the 203rd ranked prospect in this year's NHL draft. Welcome to the podcast, Kurth.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for coming on. It really means a lot to me. How you guys been doing since the season ended a couple of weeks ago?
I've been well. Just been hanging out at home. It's nice to be back. Been hanging out on the lake a lot.
I've been well too. My grandparents from out of town finally came over since COVID, and it's good to see them.
Well, that's good to hear. And what are your guys' plans for the summer preparing for next season?
Do a lot of training. So, every day you're at the gym, then you go to the ice, and we do some privates together too. It's a good time.
I have ski early in the morning, and then I have practice and training throughout the day, and then during my free time, which is later in the day.
That's awesome to hear. And like last off season, like many other players that I've talked to, you guys had to deal with a lot of challenges, finding ice time, finding gyms as well. With all that stuff opening up now, does that change your approach for this upcoming off season?
For sure. Like last season, like from March to June, middle of June, it was all running, no ice, rollerblading, and right now you get an early start compared to last year. I've been able to get after it since May, so definitely.
I've done the same thing, just keeping up with training, and then now since everything's starting to open up, every opportunity I can go get ice or go to the gym, I'm just doing that.
Yeah, and a lot of players are telling me that they had to do a lot of band workouts and body weight workouts. Not doing that stuff this offseason as much as you guys did last offseason. Does that make a difference in your playing style, I guess?
Playing style doesn't change much, but you can for sure be heavier. Make sure you're stronger going into next season when you're lifting, really getting after it in the gym. When you're doing body weights, you don't build as much muscle. You just kind of maintain that way.
I agree with that.
Now, what is something you guys want to improve on the most for your game for next season?
For me, it's upper body strength because I haven't really focused on that, and with the training I'm doing now, that's one of the areas I'm really focusing on to get a faster, harder shot.
Yeah, for me, I'm working on speed. That's a big part of the game now is being fast. So, pretty generic answer, but getting faster.
Now, I want to start off talking about the beginning of your hockey careers and working all the way up to where you both are now. So you both are from Minnesota. Just talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
Go ahead.
My dad played hockey in college, so how I first started was he was watching NHL game, and I watched a couple with him, and I just knew that was a sport I wanted to play. And then just growing up in the state of Minnesota and the state of hockey, it's pretty awesome just because we have really good competition here and access to rinks compared to most other places.
Yeah, same for me. My dad played, and he put me in it as soon as I could start walking, and he built us an outdoor rink and loved it ever since.
Does your dad, Kylie, ever talk about his college hockey experience?
So he went to Stout for hockey, and then he blew his knee, so then he couldn't play hockey anymore after his freshman year. But he still got his scholarship and everything like that. So.
Oh, well, that's definitely unfortunate, but it's good that he got that college hockey experience and that scholarship as well.
Yeah.
Now, who was your guys' favorite player growing up?
For me, it was Eric Stahl. My aunt used to work for the city of Thunder Bay, and when he won the cup, he brought it back there and signed a bunch of stuff for her. So it was really cool. I had a bunch of signed Stanley Cup stuff, so loved him ever since.
For me, it was Yavel Kovalchuk. I watched the New Jersey Devils growing up with my dad, and that was just our favorite player to watch at the time until he went to Russia.
Yeah, and Eric Stahl played for the Wild for a little bit. Was it cool seeing one of your favorite players playing for your hometown team?
I was so excited. Yeah, I went to more games when he was there than I ever did. Got a jersey. I was pumped.
Have you ever gotten to meet his brothers or just Eric?
I've never even got to meet him.
Oh.
That's something I'd like to do, but that's hopeful.
And obviously with Ilya Kovalchuk, had one of the best shots, and he used to play for the Atlanta Thrashers. I don't know if you guys remember that team, but it was fun watching him play with them, and then he went to the Devils, and he's been such a great player, and it's kind of crazy how he's been successful in the NHL and the KHL as well.
Yeah.
And then he came back, so That's
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now, I'm not from Minnesota, so just talk about the high school hockey scene, the hockey scene there in general. What's it like being a player in that atmosphere? Because I've seen the clips of the state tournament at the XL. It's really cool how you guys fill up that entire stadium for a high school hockey game. I would never imagine that happening where I'm from.
Um, I mean, it's amazing. Just the environment at the state tournament's a whole different experience from within the season, and that's something we always look forward to. And we always tell our new and upcoming freshmen on our team, like, that's the experience you want to. That's the goal at the beginning of the year, and it's just amazing having almost a sold-out stadium, especially during the state tournament and especially during the championship. And it's a pretty cool experience, and I've been lucky to so far go to the state tournament every single season.
That's pretty good, huh? I never played high school hockey, but it was even when I didn't being that age though, I'd always go and watch the tournament. It was so cool. So many people there. You know everybody that's there. You know everybody's playing. It's a really cool experience, even just to watch it.
Yeah, is it weird talking to people who aren't from the Minnesota high school hockey scene just about that atmosphere? Because I'm from Massachusetts, and the biggest game that I ever played in only had like 100, 200 people. So I can't even imagine what it's like playing in front of a crowd of thousands of people.
I don't even know like how I could like describe it to you. I mean, it's like a pro game, but the fans are more passionate and there's even more people there. They sell out every game.
The rink feels bigger just because of how many seats, but I got nerves my first time playing at the X, and it was a little nerve-wracking. But other than that, it's fun.
Yeah, and how'd you deal with that with those nerves, just playing in the X and being in that NHL facility in those locker rooms and stuff?
So I mean, our coaches and like our teammates were like, okay, it's just a regular game. Try to zone out everyone. Besides when you have the other team, a huge fan section behind your net, like booing at you and stuff like that. But other than that, it was easy just to focus in on the game and block out everyone else.
Look, it must be harder for the goalie just because they're constantly behind those fans. So I feel like that's a lot tougher to deal with those nerves than if you're a player.
I'd have to agree with that. Yeah, I
Yeah, I'm
think that's
sure.
probably true.
Now, Connor, before you went to the USHL, you played for Gentry Academy. Just talk about your experience there and what was that like?
I've been going to Gentry since sixth grade. So the day it opened, I started there. My mom is the principal there. So I love it. Like I credit everything I got right now to Gentry. Um, it's unbelievable. You train every day and everyone there is super nice, but everyone's super competitive. So you just push each other every day to get better. Not only even on the ice, but in the classroom as well. Like you're with your buddies all day, every day, and you're just trying to get better than them, whatever you're doing.
And just talk about the transition to the USHL and how'd you get the opportunity to play with Dubuque?
Uh, they drafted me in the futures and I went to main camp and I did all right, whatever, first year. And then I had a pretty good season my 16U year, and I had some conversations with the GM and he told me I could come out. And so I went for a week in December, and then I went for 2 weeks and then COVID happened. But during those 2 weeks I had a pretty good time and had a good time with the coaches, and they talked to me and they said, hey, you got a good chance of making it next year, come down. And had a good main camp, had a good training camp, and was fortunate enough to make the team.
And just talk about the city of Dubuque in Iowa. What's that like? I've never been to Iowa, but in the movies, there's a lot of cornfields and stuff. So is it just like it's portrayed?
Yeah, I don't know. Dubuque's an older city. I like it. I actually really like it. We got some good stuff. A lot of history there for sure. It's on the Mississippi, which is pretty cool. All the people there are super passionate about Dubuque, and they like the Saints a lot. So it's good. Like you're kind of like the local celebrities around there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and those jerseys are sick. I was taking a look at them. Do you think you guys have the best jerseys in the USHL?
Thank you. I agree with you.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. Now, a lot of great players who are in college hockey now played for Dubuque. So I guess like how do you try to continue those players' legacy heading into next year?
Yeah, Dubuque's got a great track record of developing guys, and like a lot of guys credit Dubuque for their success in college. They have a great system, so they teach you how to like go off a daily schedule, and they basically are preparing you for college. That's their goal. So I think that credits a lot. Those guys will credit Dubuque for for their success in college.
And just talk about this past season with Dubuque and what you learned from your experience there overall.
I learned so much this year. I wasn't much of a D zone player up until this year. We play a heavy D zone game, and we try and build offense off that. So I really rounded out my game. Sorry, and that was huge for me. And learning away from the rink was even bigger. I would have to say I learned how to like be on my own without your parents. My billet family was great, but it's definitely different. So I learned a lot of good life lessons down there, and I'm excited for next year being more comfortable.
Yeah, no, how do you deal with living with a billet family? Because it seems like a great experience, but I find it very awkward just to go to someone else's house and like live there for a year.
Yeah, at first it definitely is. And I don't know if I have the same experience as everyone else because my billet family is, I would rank them in the top 3 billet families in all of junior hockey. They're unbelievable. But I, it's awkward at first for sure. You just gotta like be open and be respectful of their rules, and then eventually you just fit in and feel normal.
Now, Kylie, you obviously played at Edina High School for the past few years. Last season, your team went 22-0. Just overall, talk about this past season, being undefeated, and what'd you take away from your senior year overall?
I mean, it was amazing that we went 22-0, but I mean, it was very challenging because everyone brings their best game when they play us. We always have probably one of the biggest targets on our back, and overall, it was a very good season, and I was very lucky and fortunate to be part of one of the toughest conferences and have really good games to play against and good competition.
And what was the key for maintaining that success throughout the season? And because I was watching like interviews with your coach, Sammy Reber, and she was saying how you guys did like certain drills to try to keep up that game intensity because your schedule is kind of imbalanced because you missed some weeks because of COVID, and then other weeks you would play a little bit more.
So we did a lot of conditioning this year. And then we focused in on battle drills and a lot of plays and systems, and we've switched up our systems this year. And
Obviously worked.
yeah, it worked. And then we made sure that everyone was accountable. We made sure no one, when we had early practices, sometimes Sandy would be like, oh, we didn't have ice today, but then she would send us a text the night before saying we had early morning ice. We made sure that everyone was accountable and made sure everyone got there on time and everyone passed the word around. And then even though we couldn't really do team bonding activities, we tried everything we could with either if that was Zoom calls or FaceTime calls to make sure that everyone had a bond within the team since we couldn't do any team activities, which is nice.
And obviously, being a senior on the team this past year, what type of leadership did you want to bring? Were you more of a vocal or lead by example type of player?
Lead by example. I think actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, and I guess like having a younger team, like what are some of the actions that you try to show those younger players so as they continue their development to their senior year?
For me, I don't really talk a lot in line. I mean, I'm vocal when it comes to like, let's try this next time, or that was a good play, but maybe we should have done this, and making sure that I help my teammates. I see like they struggled in this, especially the younger ones, when it comes time to systems and stuff. I make sure that if I know they're struggling, the coaches can't get to them, that I help them out. And I sometimes before practice, like, hey, like, do you want to come in before practice and I can go over this with you? Other than that, I'm pretty focused in line. I don't really like to mess around, and I feel like that's important to not mess around and focus on the ice and making sure that we do the drills correctly. And then when it's time to like actually be serious and people are messing around, I try to help to make sure that we're like, okay, guys, like let's focus in, like it's not horse around anymore because we have a target on our back.
Yeah, and what emotions were you feeling after winning the state tournament this year, especially as a senior?
I mean, it was happy that we got our title back just because we lost to Andover this last year, but I was really happy because we did finish off our season strong and we won the state tournament. But I was also sad just because I know that with the girls I've grown up with, that I won't see them for probably a bit just because we're all going different places in college, and some aren't going to play hockey anymore and they're hanging up their skates. And then some of them I will be playing against and some of them I won't, just because it's based on our schedule and what conference and section they're at.
Well, you do get to play against your former teammate, I guess, now Hannah Chorsky in the Bean Pot this next year. How excited are you for that?
I'm very excited just because I'll have her right across the river from me, and it'd be good to play against teammates. I get more fired up to play against other players I know and growing up with.
That's such a good tournament.
Yeah, no, it's everyone talks about like the Minnesota State high school hockey tournament and just how electric that is. But here in the East Coast, that's the Bean Pie. It's so electric. It's awesome. And I don't know if you watched last year's Bean Pie between Boston University and Northeastern, but it was such a great game.
It was a good game.
Now, I have to ask you about a little bit about the run because I was looking at some of the opponents your team played. One team you played was Minnetonka. Jane Cooley was telling me how that team is your biggest rival. So just talk about winning that game, dominating them, and just the physicality that team brings. Because I was looking through the photo gallery of that game, and there was like one photo of like a girl just cross-checking someone just because they got a little too close to the goaltender.
Yeah. So I mean, that game is always very physical. Whenever we play them, they're a very physical team. They're very good at defending their house and making sure that they block out our players. So we had to actually switch up our power plays and stuff like that to a 1-3-1 this year just because they read off our overload and umbrella. So that was interesting just because we haven't done that before. And we decided to work on that a week before our game against them. And then I mean, we know each other. We have all known each other since growing up. So, I mean, I think another part of it is since we all know each other, we're a lot more physical and there's a lot more grit within the game.
Now, I want to ask you about academics this year. What was that like for you both, just dealing with online school and trying to balance hockey and academics?
It was tough for me, especially because I was doing PSEO, which is online college through high school. So it was tough to balance, but Dubuque, like I said, they do a really good job of scheduling. So every day we have a time block 2 to 4 hours every day at the rink to get our school done. And our assistant coach will be in there if we need help. And we have an academic advisor who's down there all the time, and she works around the area. So any teacher help we need, she can get it for us. So Dubuque does a great job with that. So it was good.
For me, it was weird because my first day of school was online and some other kids in my class, their first day of school was actually in school. So I had no idea what I was doing, but eventually my team decided to be safe because if someone got a COVID case, my team would be shut down for 2 weeks and we didn't want to skip any games or have to be shut down. So we all ended up just going fully online. And then I ended up staying fully online the rest of the year because it didn't make sense to go back to school with 2 weeks left of the semester and everything like that. But I mean, it was hard in the beginning, but with the teachers' help and our counselors and how they set everything up, it was pretty easy once you got the hang of it. And I'm very fortunate about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought Zoom was interesting. Once I got used to it, I kind of liked it a little bit more just because for time management purposes, it's easier to schedule your classes. Like I'm in college, so it's easier to schedule your classes and then like have the rest of the day to do whatever you want. So that's why I kind of liked online school a little bit more.
I liked it too, because if you have a road trip on Thursday, you just know you got to get your work done Monday through Wednesday.
How did you guys deal with like the Zoom breakout rooms? Because I thought those were super awkward experiences. I don't know if you guys had to deal with them, but they were pretty bad.
For me, I mean, a lot of my classes, I had a lot of my friends in, and we were really good friends with our teachers, and our teachers really liked us, so we could always joke around in our Zoom calls. I mean, probably shouldn't have, but we did. And then, I mean, it was easy, and I barely had any Zoom calls, but we just had a lot of check-ins and said, okay, like this is the agenda for the day, and then just go off and do your work. But the only awkward part was when people wouldn't turn their camera on and you were in a breakout room and your camera was on, and there was a couple of times where I didn't notice my camera was on and my camera was on and everyone else was black, and I'd just be talking like, oh crap, my camera's on.
Yeah.
So that was awkward, but
well, I was in my first year in college, so I didn't know anyone in any of my classes, so it was super awkward when we had to do this breakout rooms. But, you got through it. The one awkward experience I had was, like, this girl's microphone was broken, so I was basically just talking to myself, and she was, like, chatting on the chat function, trying to get her work done. It was pretty brutal, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I have to ask you both, like, how is your experience in the USHL and at Edina helping you to prepare for college hockey in the future?
You want to take this one?
For me, like I said earlier, I was probably had the hardest game schedule arguably, and one of the hardest conferences. So I feel like the competition within our conference every single year was always good, no matter if it was a rebuild year for a team. The players that they brought in were really good, and the competition was always high and really good.
For me this year, the USHL, I mean, I don't even think it's a question. It was the hardest it's ever been. So, and you got a lot of guys coming back from college with experience playing. So it was just big learning curve right away, and you just figure out how to play the game. It's a little different, but that's like you play a different style, which is nice. But you just got to figure it out, deal with the curve, and you're just kind of ready then.
Yeah, no, I was reading about the USHL, and apparently there's a lot of international players that are coming to that league just because a lot of other leagues are canceling. Was it nice for yourself learning about different players from other countries?
Yeah, one of my line mates this season was from Kazakhstan, and it was really cool to like learn from him. And the way he picked up English was so fast, and it was really cool to see. And he's a super nice guy, so I was really fortunate to play with him and learn from him.
Now, for college hockey fans that haven't seen you both play, just describe your game to them and what do you hope to bring to your schools in the future?
Uh, I'll go first. I'm a two-way forward, mainly playmaking, so that's kind of my goal is to be a pass first and then score when I get the opportunity. So I hope to just come in Minnesota, be a consistent player, and hopefully put some points on the board.
I would say I'm a two-way hockey player too, and I want to bring grit, and I am very good at making plays and making things happen. And yeah.
That's awesome to hear. Now, I want to ask you both about the recruiting processes that you had to go through. What was that like, and why did you choose to go to Minnesota, and why did you choose to go to Boston University?
My decision was actually pretty easy. I only went on a couple visits, and Minnesota called and said, "Hey, you want to come out?" So I went on a visit. I just knew that's where I wanted to be, and I called them right back after I gave it about 2 hours. Called them back and said, "I'd love to be here." So that's how I decided. It's pretty easy decision for me though.
That's easier than mine. I started getting scouted when I was 13, and yeah. And I mean, my coaches, they're like, okay, we'll pick top 3 schools that you think you're interested in, and we will contact them for you. And if you have any questions, let us know that we can ask them for you. And we sent out emails, and I had prospect camps and stuff like that. And then they would let my coaches know that they were interested, because at the time they couldn't have contact with me. And I would go out east. I mean, I knew I wanted to go out east, but I was also open at the time for anything, just because I didn't really know what I wanted. And the only thing I was really concerned about was what if I chose something at the age of 13, 14, and when I am 18, that's not where I wanted to go. But luckily I chose Boston, and when I went out to the campus, it felt like home, and the coaches and the academics and just the athletic part of it was outstanding, and I really liked it, and it was a perfect fit for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously, your coach, Brian DeRocher, from talking to players at BU, he's like the nicest guy ever. How excited are you play under him in the future?
I'm super excited. First time I ever got coached underneath him was for a prospect camp, and he was super funny, super outgoing, was a very good coach. Even though he didn't know us, he was always giving us advice, and I really liked that. It's one of the things I really liked about him, how he was giving criticism.
Now, have you had the chance to meet any of your teammates? Because I know Lacey Martin, who played for Minnetonka last year, plays for BU. But besides her, have you gotten the chance to meet any of your future teammates?
I have. So Haley Blinkhorn went to Hill Murray. She was a sophomore this last year, so she's gonna be a junior this year. And then I know a couple of the girls in Lacey's grad year, like Madison and Andy, and then Lacey's roommate. I got to know a little bit, not that much, but I got to meet some of the girls my coming in year. I got to meet my roommate this last summer, and then luckily 2 other girls from Minnesota are going to Boston with me.
That's awesome. And Connor, have you gotten the chance to meet any of your future teammates? No, Tristan Braz, he played for Blake. He's going to Minnesota. But besides him, anyone else?
Yeah, the Lucius brothers are actually like 2 of my best friends, so that helped my decision a little bit too. But yeah, I know actually most of the guys I'm going in with, and I met a couple of them at the BioSteel All-American game, and super good guys. So I'm super excited.
I want to ask you about that. Yeah, you're obviously the 203rd ranked prospect in this year's NHL draft. What's the process been like talking to teams, and how excited are you for draft day coming up in a month right now?
It's hard. They ask you some tough questions, they really make you think, but it's good. I'm super excited, just hoping to hear my name called. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I'm excited.
Now, what was it like playing in the Bio All Steel American game? It seemed like a fun experience for all the players involved, and some really good players that I never heard of really showed out in that game.
It was super fun. Like, we got there on Monday and we had a couple practices and got to meet all the guys, and then the coaches were super nice, and then we did some training and combine testing. But throughout it all, even though the game, it wasn't a great for our team, but we all actually had a lot of fun and it was a really good time. So I'm super, super grateful for the experience.
Yeah, and what were your teammates like? Because some of them were insane, like Sean Farrell, Matthew Coronado. Like those
Yeah.
guys are going to be studs in the NHL in a few years.
Yeah, those guys. It was just cool to watch them in practice because you don't play with them every day, but it was really cool to play with them. Sillinger, like all those guys that were there. It was a cool experience for sure. And all of them were just super genuinely good guys. So it was refreshing and nice to know that there was good guys.
Now, I want to ask you about your coach or future coach, Bob Motzko. What's he like, and just how excited are you to play under him in a few years?
I am so excited. When I first talked to him, I just knew I wanted to play for him. He is super nice guy, and he just loves winning. And there's no one I'd rather play for in college hockey. He is super passionate about the Gophers, and I'm super excited.
Now, have you both watched any college hockey this year? I know both of you were very busy with your season, but if you had any chance to watch any games this year?
I did, yeah. I wasn't like I didn't get to watch too many during the regular season because our games are also Friday, Saturday. But when they were in the Big Ten playoffs, they were kind of spread out through the week, so I got to watch them in that, and I was loving it. I was getting super pumped up with my billet brother.
That's awesome.
I did as well. I always play up. So the girls that I've skated with in the summer and had development programs with, they actually went to college this year to play on different teams, and I got to watch their games, and it was really fun and exciting just to see how their first year went and how they were playing and how their team was.
And what was your thoughts on Wisconsin winning the national championship? Because that team is very loaded.
I mean, I'm happy for them because I have a couple of friends on that team, and I have a couple of friends on the team that they were playing against. And I mean, I'm really happy for them just because they had a really good game and they deserved it. They were good.
Now, Minnesota did win the Big Ten championship, but unfortunately, they ran into a good Mankato team. What was your thoughts on all of that?
I was going nuts in my billet house when they won against Wisconsin, but when it was a tough one to watch against Mankato, I was a little upset, but it happens.
Yeah, that was the most surprising game to me in that entire tournament, just because like a lot of their top players like couldn't get any room on the ice, and I gotta give Mankato credit that defense was very good, and they obviously have a good goaltender in Jada McKay.
You got to give them all the credit. They wanted it really badly
Mm-hmm.
and knew what they had to do, and they executed it well. So I mean, you can't take anything away from them. They played how they needed to, and they got it done.
Now, what was your thoughts on UMass winning the national championship? 3 Minnesota teams making the Frozen Four, and then the team from Massachusetts came out and won the whole thing. So I thought
One
that
of,
was pretty awesome.
one of my good buddies on my team's committed there, so it wasn't the best thing to see them win. All I heard for the next week was UMass this, UMass that. So it left a little sour taste in my mouth, but it was pretty funny.
Now, 3-on-3 overtime is in college hockey this year. It was introduced this past year. How do you guys plan to adjust to having more space on the ice and having more offensive opportunities in those overtime situations? I know they implemented a little bit in the USHL, but I don't know if they did it in high school hockey.
I mean, they didn't really do much with that just in high school hockey, but for college, I know for a fact that my team does a lot of conditioning, so we'll be good for that part. And then we're probably just going to keep working it around and attack and keep getting shots on net and then see if something happens.
Yeah, we had 3-on-3 overtime this year, and we didn't have too many overtime games. We had a couple, and when I got out there, it was pretty cool. I mean, it's different for sure. You just man up your guy and chase him around the ice if they have the puck, and when you got the puck, you just regroup until you see an opening, and you take it if you got it. If not, circle back, try again. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, everyone was telling me that you have to be very defensively minded in those overtime situations because if you make one little defensive mistake, it can cause an automatic rush for the opponent.
Most of the time, it's in your back of the net if you turn it over. Because
Definitely.
that 3-on-1 most of the time, too, like it's dangerous. So you gotta, if you don't have anything, even if it's risky, you might as well just turn back and try and get something that's more high percentage.
Now, do you guys ever think about college hockey at all during a high school hockey season or during the USHL, or do you try to block that out and just focus on the season?
A little bit of both. Like it's in the back of your mind, obviously. Like you know where you're going next, and you think about it. Like if I'm not playing good here, like am I going to be good there? But for most of the part, you're just worried about what's going on in the game at hand.
I thought about it a little bit just in the beginning of the season, and when I've had like calls with my college coaches, I just want to make sure that when they did watch my games and they saw anything, I just want to make sure that I was doing something right, or if they didn't like something, that I fixed it and worked on it in the winter season. But other than that, I just tried to stay in the moment and block it out.
Now, what are you guys' goals and expectations for next year?
Sure. For me, I want to be a top point guy in the league. That's my goal. I think I got a really good chance. Our team in Dubuque next year is going to be really good. I think a team goal of ours is to win the Clark Cup. We're super confident in the squad we got, so I think we got a good shot at it.
For me, is a goal is to win the Bean Pot tournament, and then also just keep bringing everything I can to help the team and everything like that.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you guys some non-hockey questions and get to know you guys a little bit both off the ice. So my first question for both of you is, if there's anything you can, if you could do anything for a day, what would you do and why?
Oh boy. Just one thing, or you got a whole day lined up?
Yeah, just a whole day. What would you try to do or accomplish?
I would definitely do some fishing. Probably play a round of golf, and that's half a day right there. So probably finish it out with a nice little wake surf, and play some poker at night and call it a day.
Sounds awesome.
For me, I would want to sleep in a little bit for once. And then I would want to go surfing and just be on the lake with my friends, go up to the cabin maybe, and then have a bonfire at night and just sit around and talk and just relax.
I think if I had enough money, I'll probably buy a private plane, fly out to some nice like city and just meet people and party. I think that'll be a fun day, and then go to a hockey game at night.
That does sound fun.
Sounds like a good day to me.
Yeah, it'll be a great day, but that's not happening for a while because I can't afford a private plane. But I can dream a little bit. Yeah. Now, one thing I found interesting about the Minnesota high school hockey scene is the all hockey hair team. Now, Kylie, I have to ask you, why are no girls ever on that team? I think that's pretty crazy.
All hockey hair?
Yeah.
I mean, there was not this last year, maybe it was this last year, but the girls that have really curly hair, I mean, they get into it and then they shake their head in front of the camera. But other than that, we don't really do it. We just make sure that, our team just wants to look good as soon as it gets to the camera. Like, we don't want to fall or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my best buddies made that team this year. He's on Gentry. Zach Rhyme. He made it and he was super pumped about it. It was really funny because he got a little hat and it was cool.
Yeah, I know. I heard it's a really big deal. Who's had the best hockey hair you've ever seen?
Oh man, there's this guy from Cambridge, Isani. They didn't make the state tournament or anything, but it went viral on Instagram, and he had this super puffy blonde afro and easily the coolest and funniest hair I've ever seen, for sure. What about you?
No one from Edina. No one really grew out their hair that much from Edina, but I think it was my sophomore year of high school. I don't remember which team. I think maybe it was a team from Moorhead. Some guy had he had a huge mullet actually. I thought that was pretty cool.
Big diesel mullet.
Yeah. You should try to convince some of your teammates who are still at Edina to try to make that team, like just do a little hair flip on the ice. I think it would work. I don't know.
You gotta try something.
Probably some of the girls with longer hair should do it. Do something, maybe braid their hair a certain way.
I don't know. I think it would just be cool to see, try to bounce out a little bit. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I think it'd be cool. I don't know. I would never win it, but I think Connor definitely could win it.
Thank you.
Now, another question is who has the best hair, I guess, on Dubuque, and who has the best hair on Edina girls hockey?
Oh,
For my team, it's Brooke Greeley. She has really curly hair, and whether she keeps it natural and curly, it's really pretty, or when she straightens it and then does like a little wave in it, it always looks good, and I'm jealous.
for playoffs, a couple of our guys, they went with the mullets, and one of our guys also has a big afro. His name's Riley Rosenthal. He's a Florida guy, and he went afro mullet, and it was the funniest looking thing I've ever seen. So I got to give it to him, Riley Rosenthal.
Would you ever do a mullet, Connor, or no?
I'm not gonna lie, I like my hair a lot, so I don't know. I don't know if I go there.
Everyone's saying like buzz cuts are now back in it. I definitely wouldn't do that, but I don't know. I don't have the hair right now to do a mullet, so I definitely couldn't do it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider it, like maybe in the wintertime? I don't know.
I thought about it when when like half my teammates did it, and if like 3/4 of them, I really wouldn't have had a choice. I would have done it, but I don't know. I really like my hair, so I don't know if I could do that.
Some players, they do like the blonde thing, like everyone dyes their hair blonde. I don't know if your team would ever do. Would you rather have a mullet or blonde hair? I would do blonde hair. I think that would
Mullet,
look cool.
for sure. I would go mullet 100%.
Now, speaking of your teammates, who's the funniest teammates you guys have at Dubuque or Edina?
This one's easy. Robert Cronin. He's going to go play for UNH next year. He's going to be a stud, and he is hilarious.
We have, so they're kind of a duo, Jane Keel and Barrett Lindborg. They always make us laugh, and they have this dance in the locker room. That's just hilarious.
Do you have any Robert Cronin stories that you want to share on the pod? I'm curious.
Oh, man. I don't know if you'd like me sharing some of them. I think I might have to keep those myself for now.
All right. And do you have any Jane Keeley or Brooke Greeley stories that you want to share? I'm curious if there's like any funny moments that you want to share out in the public, I guess.
So when we have our game day, we always play our playlist, and some people have the little thing they do with the song, and Jane always put a hat on, and I think it was for Delicious, the song. And then Barrett put the hat on backwards. Jane would have the sunglasses, and then they would take turns doing like that little singing part between the boy and the girl, and it was super fun how they would dance and keep moving back. And then as soon as our coach knocked on the locker room, they would throw their hat and glasses as if nothing happened and go back into their seat. And it was the funniest thing ever.
Now, you guys obviously have the best style on your teams, but besides yourself, who has the best style on Dubuque or Edina?
Lauren Uline. Definitely Lauren.
I got to give this one to my boy Matt Savoy. He knows how to get it done on the style.
Now, what music do you guys like to listen to?
For game or anytime?
Anytime.
I have about the widest variety of music I've ever seen. So anywhere from mixes to country, rap, like anything. I like slow singing songs. I like everything. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm pretty much the same way.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way too. I've been getting into Justin Bieber lately. I don't know if that's a
Me
guilty
too,
pleasure, but that last album is so fire. I can't deny it, and I'm not going to deny it. I like him. He's a good artist, and if people want to hate on me for that, then that's whatever.
I loved his last album too.
What's your favorite song? Everyone likes that song. Like, I got my from Georgia. I don't know the whole song, but
Peaches.
Yeah. Everyone says that's a banger. I like Anyone. That's a good one.
I like his one with 21 Savage. That's my favorite. Let It Go.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like Purpose from one of his old albums.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of my favorites.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and he has some good old stuff too. Like that song "One Time" is an absolute jam, and if there's no one in the car, I'm definitely singing it. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, that one you got to play with all the boys and get everybody singing.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good one. What's your guys' favorite movie?
Step Brothers. Simple answer.
I'm trying to think of mine. So it's not like Airbender, but it's this movie called Avatar, and they're like the blue people. I don't know why. I thought that movie was really well directed and how they had the graphics and everything in it.
I have the most basic answer. Probably Miracle. Has everything. It's funny because drama makes you tear up a little bit. It gets all. It's a great movie, and it's hockey. It's one of the best hockey movies too.
For sure.
I agree.
Now, last non-hockey question: if you guys could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Morgan Wallen, probably one of my favorite country singers, and I would love to sing with him one day.
Michael Jordan. I want to talk about his gambling, and I want him to explain to me how he gets his teammates fired up so that they hate him, but they love him at the same time. And I want him to explain that more in depth, because when I watch Last Dance, I just really want to have a conversation with him now.
Well, he was very intense. There was one episode where I don't know what happened, but it was like episode 6 where he was just like, like, I may have not been a nice guy. Well, that's you because you've never won anything. And he's just like showing a montage of him like ripping out his teammates. And I was like, you know what? I respect that. And that's a teammate you kind of need sometimes, just kind of push you a little bit and fire you up.
Yeah. They like hated him, but he got the best out of him. And I want to know how he did that.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of the stories of him just like ripping on guys like I don't know who that guy was who played for like UConn, but it was like they were doing the documentary of that season. He was just like ripping on him all the time, and he like eventually like got a few buckets and won him the final. Would you ask him about the Dennis Rodman story with Carmen Electra? That was probably the most interesting part of the doc.
I would ask him about Dennis Rodman. I would want to go to like a 10 different thing lunch, just an all-day event. I could ask him so many different things.
Now, what song would you want Morgan Wallen? Would you want Morgan Wallen to sing you?
Spin You Around. I love that song.
That's awesome. Now, back to some hockey questions now. My first question is, what advice would you give a young athlete who's trying to make a D1 college hockey team?
Dedication. You gotta love it. If you're serious about wanting to go D1, set your goal that you want to go D1 and dedicate your entire life to doing it. Whether it's you're working out every day, you're shooting pucks every day if you're younger, doing push-ups, sit-ups, you just need to dedicate yourself to your craft and decide if that's what you want to do. Spend your whole life doing it.
I agree with Connor. Another thing is have fun, because I feel like, especially with me, I get a little too serious and I'm really hard on myself. So just the reminder of have fun. And if you're not having fun, then you're too hard on yourself. You're not going to play your best hockey game. And especially when the college scouts are scouting you, I remember being really nervous. And I just remember thinking I should have never been nervous, just play my game, because if I'm having fun, then the people around me are also having fun, and that's when we're going to play our best hockey.
Now, what would you do to help grow women's hockey, in your opinion? I know there's been a lot of news surrounding the growth of the game with Robert Morris canceling the program and with the World Championships being canceled.
So there's an OS hockey program here in Minnesota called OS Hockey, and it's run by Winnie Brote Brown. And she has a very cool environment just because, number one, the development summer hockey program, and then she also has prospects and different tournaments that players and teams from all over come to. And I think that's very cool. And also I want to create a program like that out east and in the Midwest or out west and down south, and just create an environment like we have in Minnesota out in those places.
That's awesome. Connor, I've never asked a guy hockey player this, but is there anything from a guy's hockey perspective on how to grow the game?
Man, I think you got to start with numbers, right? So they don't have the same numbers as guys hockey, obviously, but it's growing for sure. But once you get the numbers, then you take it to social media, which is growing like everything right now. So I think you take the big leagues to social media, you help grow the players, get more people to join, and then you get more tournaments going in like areas that don't have them. It's definitely a tedious process, but if you got people that really want it to happen and you like set your intentions, I think they will do it.
Now, I was talking to another player, and we were talking about hitting in women's hockey. I want to ask you, Kylie, do you think hitting should be allowed in women's hockey?
Yes, it should.
Nice. Why? Because I know from my perspective, it sounds like it would ref the game easier, just because there's some borderline plays of what's hit and what's not a hit. And if you allow hitting, it would kind of eliminate those borderline calls.
Yes, I agree with that statement, but also no. I just feel like, I mean, especially for when I play for OS, when he tells the refs to let us play and we do get into each other and do hit, and I think it just makes the game a lot more fun and a lot more competitive, and I like that. And I don't really like the idea of having wimpy calls just because you rubbed someone out. And there's a lot of, I mean, in my opinion, especially during the high school season, a lot of calls you barely touch someone and they fall. And I feel like you should have a little bit more contact. And I feel like girls hockey is growing, so I feel like that should be allowed.
Well, that happens in the NHL too. You know, a guy gets barely touched and they flop like crazy. And that, if you ever do that, and if you're in the NHL and if you ever do that, I don't like you. You ruin the sport. Just stop flopping, please. It bothers me. What's the biggest hit you've ever thrown, Kylie? I'm curious. Have you ever like rocked somebody before?
Yeah, I've almost gotten thrown out of a game, and then he told me if this wasn't just like a fun game, I'd be kicking you out for a couple of games. And
Oh wow, that guy seems no fun.
No, not at all.
Do you think hitting should be allowed in women's hockey, Connor? I'm curious to hear your perspective as well.
I do, because like I also ask that question a lot because I go to school with a lot of hockey players, and they all say yeah. Like they don't see why it's not. Like none of them seem scared, even the little ones. Like they all want it in the game. So if it's a majority vote, yes, I think they should add it.
What's the biggest hit you've ever thrown? Have you ever like rocked somebody? Hip check, body check? No.
Yeah, I think like if I had to choose one, when I was a couple years ago, I hit a guy in like center ice. He like kind of like slowed up, and I just I put my shoulder into it, and his helmet like flew off and like went like out of the zone. So like that's probably easy answer. My biggest hit.
Well, in my league where I played in, there wasn't hitting allowed, and this is when it was going on. And some guy back, he like boarded me, and there was no call, and I was so upset. So I was like, "Well, I'm gonna get this guy back." So when the ref wasn't looking, I snuck up behind this guy and I cross-checked him. Didn't see it. He got so mad, he tried to fight me, and the ref saw that. He got a penalty. I didn't. I drew a penalty, and I got some revenge. That's the best hit I've ever thrown, in my opinion.
That's a win for sure.
That is a win.
But
and no one was hurt too, so that's another good part.
Yep.
Now, do you guys have one thing that I like to deal with whenever there's one or more guests is I want to ask you guys, what's your favorite thing about Kylie's game, and Kylie, what's your favorite thing about Connor's game?
I've only seen Connor play once in Iowa. I went with my friend to go watch their game, and one thing I really liked was how he wasn't afraid to make the plays and then move the puck up. And I thought he was very good on moving side to side. And that's something I want to build and bring to my game is having good agility, especially on the ice. Because I feel like just coming out of those situations, you'll just have more opportunities.
I've been to a couple of games recently, and she's pretty nasty. She's got nice mitts. So I think that's my favorite part to watch is when she's dangling and then she'll make a sick pass to the middle.
I'm excited to see that in college hockey. I think that'll be fun, especially in Hockey East, because you don't get those Minnesota high school games here in Mass. So it'll be cool to see some dangles, especially against potentially some BU play, some Boston College players, some Northeastern players. So I think it'll be fun. And I'm calling it now potential Beanpot goal. Cross my fingers. That's awesome. Well, do you guys have like any shout outs you want to give to any of your teammates, family members, friends, or anyone who I haven't mentioned in this interview?
Any shout outs?
Keith Jungles, Winnie Bro, and my mom and dad for helping me get to the point where I am, and also my teammates for always helping me in practice and challenging me.
I got to give a shout out to my parents for sure. Definitely. I mean, obviously, give it to the big man up top. And my coaches at Gentry, Billy Hengen and Joe Jensen, I give all the credit to them. They formed me who I am today. And then, my friends and the boys, give a shout out to the boys always.
Awesome. Well, thank you both, Kylie and Connor, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I look forward to watching you both play at BU and Minnesota in the future. Biased opinion, but Kylie, you're my favorite freshman so far at BU, so I just want to let you know that. And Connor, when you head out to Minnesota in 2022, you're going to be my favorite freshman there, so I just want to let you know that.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
No problem. You guys are great players, but also great people as well. So thank you for taking the time of your day. It means a lot.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Now, one question I want to